All right, everybody. So, ladies and gentlemen, wait, what the fuck? Hold on. Okay, I just had to make sure that my shit was actually set up and ready to go. So yes, we are here with the next series. China. China won the poll. Russia came in second. And then, if I remember correctly, it was the UK or Austria, which came in third. So, that is the order in which we are going to be doing our Let's Plays. I have a confession to make. You guys thought I was excited for the American campaign. You thought I was excited for the French campaign. I am actually truly excited for this campaign because I love playing as China. It's actually my favorite faction to play as. I think I've expressed this previously in the American campaign. Unfortunately, it has some issues in the current patch, and those issues happen to revolve around its economy. However, I have done playtesting with shitty economies. A lot of playtesting. And I am convinced, at this point in time, that I can manage to make it work pretty well. See, the advantage of a smaller economy is that it makes you play a lot more frugal. It makes you consider things a lot more. It makes you actually want to preserve your income and your budget, and it doesn't allow you to just kind of spam the way that, like, for example, in the American campaign, we were just cranking battleships. Like, even with the patch that we currently have with the expensive battleships, the economy that we had, the economy of scale that we have had with the American campaign, that we're having with the French campaign, we are able to crank battleships like a mofo. Well, in the case of the Chinese, the Japanese, the Russians, the Austrians, you really can't do that. And so now we have to play a little more smart. And this is where I get to actually play a lot of the way that I've actually really enjoyed playing since this patch dropped, and I've been playtesting a lot. And when I mean playtesting a lot, I mean I would dedicate whole freaking days to just playtesting these factions. So anyways, without further ado, let's get into it. So we are playing as the Empire of China. We have control of the majority of the Chinese mainland. We do not have control of Quanzhou and Tsingtao. We do not have control of the complete entirety of our territory, but these are just treaty harbors. These are harbors that were forced from us back in the day. Hong Kong hasn't been taken by the British yet. This would happen, I believe, if I remember correctly, Hong Kong gets taken by the British. I want to say that's the early 1900s, like 1905 or something like that, somewhere in that region. And then that's kind of where it spirals. Like, of course, we've had the Opium Wars and other such events take effect. We've had the absolute the Boxer Rebellion hasn't happened yet. The Boxer Rebellion, if I remember correctly, was I want to say it was the 18 shit. I'm pretty sure it was the 1890s. Pretty sure, because if I remember correctly, they were still using Krag rifles in the Boxer Rebellion. I don't remember, unfortunately, but I'm pretty sure they were using Krag still. So, you know, you're talking, we're getting into the era of when China starts having a lot of issues. Now, one of the things that I want to do for this campaign is I don't want to stay the Chinese Empire. I actually want to switch off of Absolute Monarchy. This is something that I've actually wanted to play with and actually try to experiment with, and I've decided I'm going to include it in a series rather than trying to play test it. Because I think it'd just be fun. And if the series ends prematurely, well, okay, that sucks. But, you know what? It's going to be fun. Fun, I tell you, fun. Anyways, so we are going to try to switch off of absolute monarchy. We're going to try to go democratic. I hope we don't go communist. But we are going to try to go democratic, basically nationalist China. And we are going to try to get our modifiers changed because we have a very large minus 35% GDP growth, minus 25% province income, and 75% unrest. Yeah, we are not good with these modifiers. We do not like those modifiers at all. So we're going to try to get rid of them. Let's go ahead and dress up our spending real quick. We'll leave the crew training as is. Go ahead and do engines. We'll do... do I want to rush Dreadnoughts? See, here's the grand question. Do we try to rush Dreadnoughts? And I'm kind of feeling not. I think what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to rush... Do I rush destroyers or do I rush cruisers? I have a feeling rushing destroyers is actually going to be the play for this one. Now, in the case of armor, armor is so important, period, end of story. I have learned from playtesting that getting the better armor technologies, even though they increase the cost of ships quite substantially, like, for example, compound armor, it's not too bad, but it's not too great. Iron plate, it's terrible, it's horrendous, it's not good. But then, of course, nickel steel is a huge benefit because reduction in armor weight, a pretty substantial cost increase, of course, but you're able to do a lot more from it. So getting nickel steel right off the rip can actually really help you. Now, of course, I always say to people, like, hey, getting Harvey armor early is good, but with our economy the way it is, we can't really build hyperly advanced armored ships early. We have to try to work up to them. So building ships that are of substandard protection, but can dish out damage, that's going to be the play. And smaller vessels like destroyers are going to be an even bigger component of that. Now, let me kind of explain this and kind of show you. If we are able to get destroyers early, and I mean destroyers, DDs, if we're able to get them early enough, we're able to start developing a large destroyer fleet. We're talking 100, 200, 300 ships that have good long-range torpedoes, that have the ability to dip and weave against enemy fire, who are able to just stay in the fight on just the premise that the enemy can't fucking hit the little bastards, on top of, oh, we're hitting you because we're just dumping ass tons of torps at you. That's going to be a big benefit across the board. And what it means is that we're going to be able to have many more ships, and the enemy is going to have to try to fight into our defense. It's kind of a modern Chinese tactic, or doctrine, really. The Chinese, for those who don't know, the Chinese basically have what is referred to as a whitewater navy. You have whitewater, blue water. A whitewater navy is a short-range, very, very versatile, but very short-range, dedicated defense fleet. Basically, the point is they operate within coastal waters, island chains, so on and so forth, and the whole purpose is that they're not meant to be expeditionary. They're meant to stay close to where they come from, and they're meant to be able to hit the enemy like a goddamn freight train with numbers. One of the key things that a lot of people miss about the current Chinese Navy, and this was something, I'll admit, I didn't understand the concept because I'm so used to the Zimwalt doctrine that we use today, which is shite. What's the actual doctrine referred to? Um, Historical Gamer was talking about this in his Italian campaign he's currently running. But the point is the I believe it's referred to as like big small or something like that. The point is you have a bunch of really cheap small things in the modern day. This would be the Arleburg class destroyer. And then you have some very potent, expensive big things. In the case of the modern day, this would be the Ticonderoga class cruiser. Now, of course, in the modern day, everybody wants to get rid of the Ticonderogas because, oh, we don't need those. Oh, yeah, sure, okay. Yeah. So, we want to rush that stuff. We want to rush those destroyers. Now, right off the rip, we're going to get some cruisers, some very light cruisers in this case. These max out at 19.5, and we're going to put them at 20. Now, I have, in fact, been playing a lot of cruiser-based gameplay. Going over the optimal speed of the hull is possible. You just need to know how to do it. See, when we go ahead and build this out real quick, and let's go ahead and build this out. And I always go minimal tower on these because actually, if you look at the stats real quick, the stats are actually better on the minimal tower 5 or 4, my bad, than on the front tower 1. So actually, it's better on these early ships to go with this tower, period, end of story, because it's just going to perform better. And what we're going to do is we're going to get 4 smokestacks or funnels on this. Now, generally speaking, I would only go 3 on these. But if we go 4, we're able to get, we're over the optimal speed. It's only by 0.5, of course, but we're still pulling 10,000 kilometers of range. And we have basic steam engines. So these are going to be exceptionally potent ships. Unfortunately, it looks like we have a bit of a problem, though. See, unfortunately, some of these parts need to be adjusted for the Chinese, because unfortunately the Chinese have the what I refer to as the shitty casements. So these really awkward, very I refer to them as bulbous casements. They make it very hard to actually put these guns, like right here. I would actually have to increase the beam, I believe, in order to actually, we still can't fit it. But it's okay, because these things are meant to be, defensive cruisers. They're not meant to be the end-all be-all. They're not meant to be incredibly potent. They're not meant to be incredibly fancy. We're actually going to turn this down to 2,000 still. Okay, well, actually, if we turn it down to 2,000... Oh, wow. Increasing the beam really hurt our range. But I do want to get that second center turret. Okay, we'll just roll with it. Alright, so we'll just roll with it. Again, these are meant to be more defensive cruisers. They're not meant to be the creme de la creme. They're just meant to be here. And then we're going to go with compound armor. Again, iron plate is pointless right out the gate. There's no reason to use iron plate whatsoever. If you're using it, you're really designing like the most ridiculously under-armored ship in the fleet. It's just bad. It's just bad. And as you can see, we have a somewhat competent light cruiser, only 4.3 million, almost 4.4, but we have decent enough range that we were able to cover. Well, there we go. We went up to almost 8,300 with the new armor. But we are able to cover enough range that we are able to raid enemy targets. We're able to protect our convoys. We're able to do things with these. These are easy, cheap reliable early game cruisers. Now, you might be screaming, why am I not putting on the casement guns? Why am I not, adding the extra firepower? Because you don't need it. You really don't. With these kind of cruisers, these are meant to be as box standard as possible in order to prevent you from spending a shit ton of money. Now, jumping over to torpedo boats. Now, torpedo boats are fun. They're really fun because you can go a little hog wild with them. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to tune these little bad boys to 26 knots. We're not trying to make them ridiculously fast because it really doesn't matter at this tier. They're not exceptionally well they're not well regarded for their firepower. They are meant to be very, very cheap, very, very easy to replace. You really want to get them under 1 million as much as possible. And we're going to look at this real quick. And we're going to turn these down to 1.1 inch guns. And we'll turn that up, get that going. Now, why am I turning these into 1.1 inch guns? Because if we hover over this real quick, this thing has an astounding 9.13 rounds per minute. And this is only going to go up when these upgrade. In the early game, fire rate is king because most ships don't have the actual armor to sustain getting hit by anything. And so 1.1 inch guns are actually quite fucking effective at this time. These things just turn into little Gatling guns. They're little machine guns that are just meant to annihilate the enemy. And with 2 torpedo launchers, because, again, very basic setup, single funnel, your front tower, 2 torpedoes, 4 guns, these can actually do quite well just running by, gatting the unarmored stuff, and then dumping torps towards the armored stuff. And once you build these, refitting them isn't that big of a deal. So all of a sudden, you're sitting there and you have a bunch of these torpedo boats. Well, then you can just stick dual deck launchers on them. And at that point in time, I wouldn't upgrade them past that. Personally speaking, that's just me. I wouldn't go past dual launchers at that point because then at that point in time, you're putting too many eggs in one basket. But, oh, hey, you build 200 of the little fuckers and you just keep them. You don't have to ever get rid of them. You don't ever have to decommission them. You don't have to do anything with them. You just keep them. And then proceed to just laugh as a shit ton of these little bastards come screaming into the enemy fleet, gatting away and dumping torps everywhere. And, oh, by the way, they're little torpedo boats. They're not that impressive. Oh, by the way, they get the bonuses from the range of torpedoes. They still get that tech. Oh, what's that? You're a little, 250-ton torpedo boat that has the, torp range of 10 kilometers, 20 years from now. Oh, yeah, the enemy can fucking one-shot you, but it doesn't fucking matter because they have to see you first. And because these are going to be purely defensive assets, these are not offensive assets. These aren't the destroyers. The destroyers are where you go on the offense with. The torpedo boats are the defense. You build a lot of them, and you just keep them near your waters. You keep them near your holdings. And then the enemy has to come to you, and when they come to you, all of a sudden these little fucking devils come out of nowhere, and they're just like, oh, hi! And yeah, it's a great time. Actually, I'm gonna say this right now. I've actually watched, I've watched like 20 of these things engage in a battle. Yes, you can get a lot of them in a battle. I was playing as Austria. It was a battle in the Adriatic. Let's sum it up this way. The enemy fleet had 2 battleships, 4 light cruisers. I had 20 torpedo boats. The light cruisers did not have any armor. They died very quickly because of the number of fuck you shells flying through the air from these torpedo boats. And then the battleships sat there crying as all of a sudden a shit ton of torps are just screaming towards them. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to pump out, I think we're going to go 12. Yeah, I think 12 is a good number. These are meant to be our longer range, reach out and touch you ships. These are meant to kind of just sit in port. They're meant to not really do much. They're just meant to be there. You know, that's the whole point, is they're just meant to be there. So we're just gonna go ahead and we're gonna throw them. These are the regular ports that I use for defensive purposes. You always want to have packs of ships that are dedicated purely to sea control, but defensive sea control. See, if you're throwing ships out there into the ether all the time and you don't have anything near your waters, your convoys are unprotected. And so the natural just attrition on your convoys will just kill you. But if you have, 12 light cruisers that are able to sit in your waters, or a metric fuck ton of torpedo boats that are able to sit in your waters and just defend your convoys, oh god, you never lose convoys. And I'm serious when I say that. You never lose convoys with these things. And then we're going to crank out a metric ass ton of these guys. Oh, that's the max we could queue up right now. Okay. Okay. Well, okay, let's go 150. We're going to start with 150 of these little bastards. 150 torpedo boats. We're literally going to have, numerically speaking, the largest fleet in the entire fucking world. And the Japanese are literally going to shit themselves because, oh, by the way, their coastline is in range of these little bastards. Oh, man. All right, let's make sure our tech and everything is in play, and let's make sure that we're actually good to go. Now, you might notice I'm not telling them where to deploy these. I'm literally just going to let them throw them out there because I'm never going to use them in any other fashion than defensively. So they're just going to stay in port, period, in the story. And there you go. We have 162 ships. Yes, 150 of them are the shitty little torpedo boats that really don't matter in the grand scheme of things. But the enemy is never raiding me. Because all of a sudden they have 10 screaming memes coming out of the woodwork saying, "Kumbaya, motherfucker!" Oh man, this is a very good time. I have been playtesting the utter shit out of this method the past couple weeks, and I absolutely adore it because the enemy can't touch you. Now, you might ask, you might be curious, okay, how do we invade people? Well, there's a little problem with that. Early on, invasions aren't really a thing. Early on, you're kind of hampered by that. But, we have things we can do. We have metrics that we can work with. And that is our battleships. We can get some turret ships out, for example. Actually, the experimental turret ship, it's actually quite a competent little ship. A lot of people are going to look at this hull and think, oh my god, it's fucking terrible. But here's the problem that a lot of people have. A lot of people are going to sit there and they're going to assume that they have to use these little barbette spots. And that's the only place they can put their guns. Well, I'm here to tell you that, no, you can have some centerline guns as well. These turret ships can give you an effective broadside of, well, okay, after a while, I will replace these because I will do a single refit of these once we unlock some better tech. I will replace these single barrel turrets with dual barrel turrets, but you can get an effective broadside of 4, or that'd be 6 guns on the enemy. 6 guns off of an 1890s turret ship design. Yeah, boys. It's pretty nice. It's the one ship that I think a lot of people have kind of slept on. Now, we can also go ahead and we can set this up a little bit. As you can see right here, the front turret 6, or front tower 6, my bad, is incredibly potent. It's actually a very good tower. Of course, we only have the medium medium secondary tower, which kind of doesn't really add much to it, but the front tower 6 adds a lot. And it's quite potent just how much it can really give you in the grand scheme of things. Now, here's the other kicker. As you can see, we have... Let's go ahead and do this. Let's go ahead and throw compound armor. We have an effective range, actually real quick, 17 for this bad boy, so we'll just leave it at 17. We have an effective range of 8,000 kilometers at 17 knots with a single funnel. We don't have to add any more to this thing. We don't have to. And frankly speaking, there's a lot to be said about not doing it. And then we go ahead and we add a bunch of 2-inch guns. Oh, wait. These are not going to be 2-inch guns. And we'll even throw the little bastards up there. These are not going to be 2-inch guns. These are going to be 1.1-inch guns. Because, again, we are going for machine gun. We are going DACA. We are going absolute fuck you and the shit over there. The grid square was deleted by DACA. That's what we're going for with this. And then, if we go ahead and we do a little more, we can go ahead and add some secondary guns on here. We'll proceed to add some more 2-inch guns, and we'll again turn these into 1.1-inch guns. It's so funny how small these turrets get when they're 1.1s. And honestly speaking, we can go ahead and we can throw some more funnels on here. Like we can kind of play around with it and see if we can get a spot where the funnels actually want to work. So we can get shit. There you go. Boiler efficiency or engine efficiency 116%. We can get a lot out of this little bastard. Absolute atrocious levels of DACA. And we can kind of play with the placement of the turrets. You know, like for example, we could give these things incredible firing arcs, for example. Like these firing arcs are freaking crazy, bruh. Like we could really have some fun with it. Actually, let's see if we can kind of compensate for the weight a little bit. There we go. So our rear firing arc is absolutely fantastic. Our frontal firing arc, not that great, but if you think about it, when you're heading towards the enemy, you're trying to get into a position where you can fire, and that rear gun being able to swing out and be like, hey, I'm here, all of a sudden you got an extra gun that you didn't think you had. All right, so let's go ahead and let's just dress her up armor-wise. We're going to go 8, and we're going to go 4, 4, and 8. So we're gonna go ahead and, you know, we're gonna keep her in modest strides. We're not going to go absolutely ridiculous. We're not gonna go absolutely crazy with the armor on this thing. Now, of course, you might be looking, okay, you know, you still have a bunch of weight you can use. Why aren't you using that weight? Because we're trying to save some money. We're gonna build like 6. Maybe 8 of these. I don't know yet. We'll figure it out when we get there. But we're going to build a few of them, and we're just going to keep them. These things are never getting gotten rid of. Like, on a serious level, I'm going to say this right now, on a serious level, I will probably never get rid of these things. Just from the perspective of I can use them defensively, I can use them offensively. They're going to be great. And eventually the armor, the weight-saving technologies are going to get so good that I'm probably going to be able to turn these into all dual-barrel frickin' 9-inch guns. I might be able to put frickin' 8-inch guns on it. If we come here, well, actually, I don't have 8-inch tech yet. I might be able to just turn them into like a pocket battleship. I might be able to put 10-inch guns on these. I don't know yet. We'll figure it out when we get there. But we're just going to fucking have them. Because fuck it, we can. Now, in regards to, and I know this episode just turned into a rant about ship design, and I understand that people are probably fucking trying to kick me in the balls right now. In regards to armored cruisers, we're not going to be building any of these. The reason why is because, frankly speaking, early on, armored cruisers, they're kind of trash. You need the weight and the tonnage to really make them shine. And, like, for example, the coastal defense ship, it's just too damn slow. Yes, it can pace with the battleships. But why would I bother building a cruiser that can pace with the battleships when I could just build more battleships? So that's kind of the mindset. That's kind of the way we're doing it. It's kind of the thing that we're going for with this. And you might, and there was a comment. There was a comment on the finale video of the USA campaign. I do understand that some people are probably a little jaded over that, because I said I was going to try to make it work, but I couldn't get it to work the way I wanted it to. It just felt real clunky. I know a lot of people are going to be like, oh, why didn't you choose Russia? Why didn't you do this? Why did you do that? And look, I wanted to respect the poll. I put the poll out there. I signed the devil's contract. I said, I'm going to let you guys decide. You guys chose China. You guys chose China. And I'm going to play China. I'm going to play it the way I want to play it, because I love this nation. Anyways, guys, I'm going to go ahead and tie it up here. I do understand that, yes, I just talked for 30 minutes and we did not even process a turn. But I love you guys, and I will talk to you next time. Peace.